This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everybody. It is March 22nd, 2021. It is 7 p.m. My name is Chris Pia, and I'm calling the regular scheduled Stratford WPCA Water Pollution Control Authority meeting to order. The first item on the agenda, an approval of the minutes from January 25th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Bill O'Brien.
Councilor O'Brien, do I have a second?
Laura Dancho, I'll second.
Ms. Dancho, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 7-0. Councilor Poisson just joined. Carol, motion passes 7-0. All right, thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the town engineer report. Mr. Casey.
So I really don't have any actions items this month, but I'll scroll through briefly the project update. The pump station renovation project is moving along. We're about 40% complete as of today, and they're working on the structural work, the concrete work, primarily at this point. And then they'll be moving toward more heavy-duty renovation of the pumps and the buildings. And at the bottom of the memo report is the block schedule that Nixon provided us. Just in general, show how the major elements of the renovation will occur and give us an idea of the schedule through the end of this year. So you'll note in red on that was the building demolition and the new walls for the coastal resiliency. That's where you'll see most of the impact. If anyone has any questions that come up during that time on these pump stations, that's probably when they would be bringing up any questions, when they were starting to rebuild the walls for the resiliency. So those are those three stations in red that those are the time periods they'd be working on that work preliminarily as they envision it now. For the sewer projects, our lining, our I&I restoration rehab of the sewers is underway, and they've had a couple little bumps, but for the most part, we're going smoothly. We've been trying to, as needed, locate some manholes that we either couldn't find, or they were paved over, or they're in the woods and we haven't been able to uncover them yet. So we're working on that with the contractor. And otherwise it's going pretty well. We will be sending out those letters that we postponed for the last year to owners of properties where we know they have some kind of connection of clean stormwater into the town sanitary sewer system. And those letters will be going out very shortly. In the next 2 weeks, they'll be out. And then, we'll be asking the owners to contact us so that we can assist them, troubleshoot in ways that they can come up with to separate the clean water connections that they might have. So that'll be going on for several months after the letters go out, and we hope that people call us so that we could try to solve these problems. And if they don't, we'll have to do follow-up, a little more strict follow-up to try to get these connections disconnected. And then our sewer lining project, we haven't had the contractor yet come back to the table on that, so we're trying to get them to finish up that work in the next couple months. So that'll be closed out. And then our resiliency project at the WPCA, we're ready to advertise for qualification requests. So we have an RFQ that will be advertised this week, and the RFQ is seeking qualifications for engineers, and then we will review the qualification statements that they submit, and then we will develop a short list of firms that will be rated highest so that we can interview them. And then from there, we'll select a consultant to negotiate a contract with. This is called the qualification-based selection, and that's the process we're using because of the federal funding source on the job. That's about where we're at with all our projects.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Casey on any of those items he just reported on?
Hey, Chris, Bill O'Brien here.
Billy, go ahead.
Hey, John, this is the time of year where people are getting their pools ready, and I notice a lot of water going down the street into the drains from pools. Is there any problem with that?
We don't encourage people to do that. That's, basically dirty water going into the storm drain. There is no process for that to be connected to the sanitary sewer. And normally people wouldn't have the ability to do that. What in the past, what the conservation people have asked is that they discharge it on the property and let it infiltrate into their yard. And new pools for the last many years, 15 years or so, we're supposed to have a dry well put in when the pool goes in, so you could backwash into the dry well, which would then infiltrate into the ground. So that's what we'd encourage people to keep the water in their lawn rather than have it run down the driveway into the street.
Thanks, John. Any other questions for Mr. Casey?
Chris, Greg Can.
Greg.
Two questions. Thanks for the report, John. Under the INI, the number of homeowners that need to disconnect their storm water connection, how many property owners have you identified, roughly? Illegal connection.
I really don't recall the numbers. Probably about 40 or so, but I don't really know the number off the top of my head.
No, that's fine. And under 5 pump stations rehab, the first paragraph has a sentence, restrictions for certain foreign telecommunications. Can you provide some context to that?
Well, if you remember, the federal government put restrictions on certain communications that were suspect for security reasons. If one company was Hawaii, I think was the name, the Chinese firm, and the EPA, took that security risk and put it into their federally funded contracts. So because this is Clean Water Fund comes from the federal government, ultimately, the state made us put this caveat into our agreement. So basically, anything that would have communication, like we have our telemetry system going in. Some of the controls have smart controls for relaying data to the SCADA system. Those controls need to be from companies that are not restricted by the federal government.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Any other questions?
This is Laura. I just have a quick question about the families that are going to be getting the letters.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of, do these families have to incur any sort of penalty, or there's no real reason why they shouldn't just freely come forward and look for help, right? Or is there a reason why they wouldn't want to?
Yeah, each house may have a different, and it's not just a house, commercial property as well, may have a different reason for what we're finding. So we might find that they have a broken pipe and they're just getting some cross-contamination that we don't know about. In that case, they have a broken pipe and they probably should fix it.
So it's really just like the cost of whatever a repair or the fix would be, and not really a fine for doing something that may be perceived as illegal.
Right. Well, we're not looking to fine people. We're looking to have them disconnect. So,
So it's to their advantage to
so
call.
a typical reason would be they have a yard drain connected to their plumbing, or they have their gutters connected in, and all that clean water from the roof goes right into their sanitary sewer, because that's, if they disconnect the leader from their house and just have it go out onto the ground rather than go into the pipe, that would solve it. So it's a simple fix in those cases, but a little effort they have to do, but it shouldn't cost much.
Okay.
But if they don't do it, then we have a discussion about what we're going to do about it if they refuse to
Okay.
take the water out of our system.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And John, this is Chris. To that point, John, can you provide us an update on this on a monthly basis or even a bi-monthly basis? Just because if it's 6 months from now and you have 2 out of the 40 that are refusing to do anything, then you could bring it to our attention. We can determine that from a board.
I will.
Thank you. Any other discussion for Mr. Casey? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, John. You have a great night. Mr. Hyde, next item on the agenda. You are up, sir, as plant superintendent.
Good evening, members of the board. I included with the reports this month, both January and February. I believe you probably all had an opportunity to breeze through them. Basically, we're doing the same things. We're maintaining, we put the generator maintenance contract out to bid. We're evaluating that right now. The batteries are out for bid. We, back in January, I slid down to item number 5, new business in January. We had talked about $8,900 for the pump station maintenance for general overhaul of a pump that had been jammed up. We have taken care of that. We have paid for that. Came out of the pump station maintenance budget. Aside from that, the one item that I neglected to put on these reports is that on January 28th, we had a 3-inch water main break within the plant. We had our contractor come in and do the repair on us in the lieu of $7,206. That was a 2-day affair. It's running now, but we were anticipating seeing a reduction in our water costs as a result of the work we've done on the plant water system. And at the end of the year, we're probably going to be a little bit over budget because we lost a little water before that leak showed itself. Other than that, I don't have anything new to give you this month. No real problems other than the plant is running remarkably well. Regarding nitrogen removal and so forth, we're getting numbers that we would typically see in July and August. We're getting them in January and February. As of March 16th, year to date, we are at half of the permit. So we're in very good shape there. Plant is running well. Personnel are all relatively healthy. That's all I have for you.
So Tom, this is Chris. Thank you for that. So the way I hear you, sir, is we need to vote on item number 5, which is the $8,995 for the pump station, and you are also requesting that additional item to be added to the agenda for a vote of $7,000 and change. Is that correct?
Well, that's below my signature level, so that's pretty well taken care of.
Gotcha. Okay.
Out of the budget, the $89.95, yes.
Okay.
I've spoken on that, and
yep,
that should be approved. Yes.
Not a problem. Yep. And for the record, Mr. Hyde did bring it to my attention. We did not have the meeting last month, but I asked him to put it on the agenda for disclosure and transparency purposes. Obviously, these are the things in the dead of the night. Something happens, it breaks, it's frozen. You gotta fix it to make everything keep going. So All right, so with that, I will entertain a motion to approve item 5 under Mr. Hyde's report in the amount of $8,995 as stated. I'll entertain that motion.
Greg Can, I'll make the motion.
Greg, thank you. Motion by Mr. Can.
This is
I'll second that. This is Jim Connor.
okay.
I got a second by Jim Connor. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote to approve. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Chair votes
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 7-0 on item 5. Any further discussion for Mr. Hyde on his points? Mr. Casey, you had your hand raised, sir?
Yeah, not for Mr. Hyde, but I have another item to bring up.
No problem. Yep, we'll hold on to new business for that, Mr. Casey. Any further discussion for Mr. Hyde from anyone?
Chris, I'd like to ask Mr. Hyde or Mr. Casey about what I'll call the sludge contract removal. It's an expensive item for the WPCA, and have we considered any alternatives to our current sludge removal contract?
So, Tom, all right, so hang on one second, Greg. So, Mr. Hyde, to Mr. Can's question, have you looked into sludge removal options over the past year?
I personally, not so much over the past year. About a year and a half ago, the mayor had a college student doing an evaluation of a digester installation. I don't actually know the results of that study. However, I don't believe it was something that we wanted to move forward. Although that is a high cost item on our budget, it is a necessary evil. It is where it all goes in the end.
Excuse me. Thank you, Tom.
Well, Chris, just
yeah.
so the sludge, it's not gonna. Is it where it goes? Is it recycled or is it just dumped and capped? Do we know?
Oh, a little bit more on that. It was probably 2 years ago that this contract did go out to bid also. It may have been early last year. I think it was probably the preceding year. And at this time, we are hauling the material to the incinerator at Veolia in Naugatuck. Sometimes when there's issues at Veolia, it will be taken to the New Haven facility, or it has been known to go out to New York or New Jersey in severe conditions.
It's basically all burned at one place or another.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hyde.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hyde? No. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Mr. Casey, you mentioned you would like to bring up an item under new business.
Yes, this afternoon we got a contact about someone wanting to connect their apartment building complex, proposed complex, to the sanitary sewer. So they're asking about the procedure. So I'm going to let them know that the procedure will be to send a letter with the data, the flow data that they're going to be generating and submit it to the WPCA for their approval, which I assume they'll do at their April meeting, at your April meeting. But we had talked about having those applications reviewed so that we could check against the sewer model, the time bond, and they had a fee that you approved for $1,700 for each review and analysis of the impact. So, I would assume that for next month you will, if you want time bond to look at that development, that we would have them do that. And then there was a question about who would pay for that fee. And you had talked about the possibility of the WPCA charging the applicants for that review fee. But I'm not sure if we've had any more discussion or if you have any thoughts about that. And I just want to let the applicant know if there would be charges for their application or not.
So good question, Mr. Casey. So here's how. First off, can we, obviously, we're going to request, they're going to give us the information on their amount of units and X, Y, and Z and tie-in. When that comes in, can you forward that to myself and Mr. Marino initially for review? And then I think it would be more than suitable at our next month meeting for the WPCA to discuss. Obviously, once we see the amount of units they're proposing, we can discuss the fee option, I think. But I'd like to, this is just me talking out loud, I'd like to see what they're proposing in terms of the mass of it.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else have any comment on that to Mr. Casey? No? Okay. I think that's a logical approach. We'll wait to see what they send to us, and then we can have this conversation when we have hard numbers in front of us next month.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? No? Hearing none? All right. Last item on the agenda is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Laura Dancho, motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Dancho. Do I have a second?
Second, Bill O'Brien.
Second by Bill O'Brien. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone. You have a great evening. Appreciate your time.
Good night, everybody.